Hello everyone, it's Finance Eddie, and today I'm updating you guys on the Coinbase IPO because we just got a bunch of new details from Coinbase themselves. We're going to know when the Coinbase IPO is, we're going to know what a fair valuation for it is, and I'm going to go over some key metrics which are absolutely insane and important to any types of investors. So if you want to see the long version of that and a deeper explanation, make sure to click this video because I made a video about it earlier, but today we're going to brush over that and just kind of update you on all of the details that you need to know in order to make a great decision on April 14th. So let's get right into it. As I showed you guys last time, I looked at the Nasdaq, Euronext, London Stock Exchange, and the Deutsche Börse to find out what a fair valuation for Coinbase will be. And if you want to look at the details, well, please pause the video here and have a look at the other companies that I used to come up with figures for it. So the old figures that I had for Coinbase before we got the update from today was that it should be valued between 12.5 to 35.4 billion US dollars. It had a price to earnings ratio between 25 to 77, which is basically based off of these guys here, and a revenue of 2 billion in 2020, as well as a profit of 0.46 billion or 460 million in 2020. And that's how we had reached this 12.5 to 35.4 billion. Well, guys, quarter one of 2021 has been absolutely insane, and they have made more money already than all of 2020 combined. So let me show you the new updated valuations, which are absolutely astronomical and insane. So the new figures that I have is that in quarter one, they made revenue of 1.8 billion, which is almost what they made over all of 2020. And if we say, well, okay, they had a really good first quarter, so let's say they might do 3 times this over the whole year. And on the high end, well, if every quarter is this good, 4x, but that's maybe a bit too optimistic. Well, that means their annual revenue will fall between 5.4 and 7.2 billion US dollars. Then if we look at the profit they made, well, they estimated that they made between 730 and 800 million. Well, if you do, again, this 3 to 4x multiple, assuming, hey, this was a really good quarter, the other quarters won't be as good, but they'll still be very good, or every quarter will be this good, which is then the 4x, well, we would have between 2.2 and 3.2 billion US dollars in profit compared to 2020. What does this raise the valuation to? Well, before we were at 12.5 to 35.4 billion. Now we're at 55 to 246 billion as a fair range for the valuation of Coinbase. So let me repeat that again. 55 to 246 billion. And then if you want to take the averages of this to kind of come up, if you want exactly one figure to base everything on and say, okay, above this I'm not buying, below that I'm not buying, which I don't think is the way to go, but some people want that. Well, here you have the average. So then I would say the average that you can expect it to be fairly valued at is 136.6 billion US dollars. If you take a PE of 51, which is aggressive because this is a very high growth company, so it's a fair PE, so it's aggressive, but it's fair, right? High growth means, well, you would have a high price to earnings ratio. It has as well then an estimated revenue of about 6.3 billion and a profit of 2.68 billion annually. Well, that would give you a valuation of around 136.5 billion US dollars. So guys, if we say then that the exact amount that Coinbase is currently fairly valued at is about $137 billion, but there's a range from 55 to about 246 billion, where I think actually the valuation makes sense and it's not overvalued currently right now. That's absolutely insane. This is easily one of the biggest IPOs in the world in the history of ever. And I do believe that currently on the private market, the latest figures that it was being valued at was about 68 billion, which seems way too low when I do the math here. And I do think this company is undervalued according to that, but I think that more or less on IPO day we'll see something between 100 and 120 billion coming out by the end of the day, or I think that's kind of where it's going to settle, which is still going to be a huge premium from when the market opens if they're going to keep valuing it at 68 billion, which I kind of doubt. I reckon they're going to go a little bit higher, but basically that's where I'm going to be targeting. I think it's going to end up between 100 and 120 billion, which I still think is about half undervalued their most optimistic target, which means that if they just grow at a conservative amount over the next 5 years, well, they could easily be worth that 256 billion, which I was quoting earlier, and there's no way that they're going to that price on IPO. If they do, that's going to be insane, and if I manage to catch that wave, I'm probably going to sell it when they're that crazy overvalued so quickly. But then again, you know, that's kind of a fallacy that like, oh, it's gone up a lot, it can't possibly go up anymore. Like, if the growth prospects of the company are still strong, you might as well just hold on to it, right? Because unless you really care about the short-term profits of like a year, well, in 10 years, you're probably just going to outperform just by hanging on to it. Even if it goes down like 50% the next year, well, what if it then 300x's over the next 3 years, right? You're going to wish you held on to it. So now that that's out of the way, now that you know what a fair valuation for Coinbase is, and guys, I did not think that there was going to be such a huge range, 55 all the way to 246 billion, with a target of around 100 to 120 billion as like the fair valuation. Actually, I keep saying 100 to 120 billion because that's what I have in my head. But if you then take the average that I put out, which is like a little bit optimistic, it's around 137 billion would be kind of my cutoff point, let's say, because I do think that they had a really good quarter one, and that 3.5x multiple is maybe a bit too high. I would kind of bring it down closer a little bit to 3 rather than 3.5x. So yeah, around the 120 billion is probably like the fair valuation given the current situation of everything. So now let's talk about the crazy metrics that I mentioned in the beginning of the video so you guys can see just how much this company is growing, and as well to see just the role that the institutions are playing in this bull cycle, which is absolutely mind-blowing, guys. Just stay with me until the end, please. You're not going to want to miss this. All right, so guys, I'm sorry for the focusing issues. This is like difficult for my phone to get, and there's a bunch of lines everywhere. Please forgive me. And so basically, I wanted to talk about the profit margin. Well, in the quarter one of 2021, they had a 40.5 to 44 profit margin. Guys, Coinbase is absolutely printing tendies, okay? These guys got the money printer on tap, and they're not even like printing just like the Fed out of infinite money. No, these guys are actually making money hand over fist the correct way by providing value into the ecosystem. Now, this margin is going to go down, but there's a good reason for that, and that's because they want to triple or quadruple the marketing budget they had in 2020 and want to take about 12 to 15% of 2021 earnings and put that into marketing. And guys, in a moment, I'm going to show you just how many users they've gone up by, and then if you push that in with like they're going to triple or quadruple their marketing, well, this user growth rate is just going to keep going ballistic. Well, what they said is that now they have 56 million verified users, and in quarter 4 of 2020 they had 43. And let me show you the graph of that. Here we have their verified users going back to the quarter 1 of 2018, and let me screenshot this so I can draw something for you. So I've screenshotted it here, and what I wanted to do was show you just how high 56 million would be, right? So we, at the end of 2020, we're at 43 million. Here we started at the beginning of 2018 with 23 million. Well, 56 million, guys, is gonna look something like this, which is just a mega bar here. And you see that even though this is starting to grow exponentially, well, here you just had a big jump up towards the upside. And if this were to continue, because remember, now they're spending 12 to 15% of their insane 2021 profits on marketing, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of 2021, we're sitting at around 70, which would be like a bar right above here, right? Well, at that point, you just have so much user growth rate that the high valuations are probably even conservative at that point. So that's one thing I wanted to show you guys. The second thing I wanted to show you guys was that they have 6.1 million monthly active users. And well, the reason why these points are so important, as well as the fact that they had a 335 billion trading volume, is actually pretty simple. You see, more than 80% of all of Coinbase's revenue comes directly from trading fees. Now, as the platform matures and you get more and more users, what's logical to do is to kind of push the revenue towards more subscription-based revenue, which means that even in times that the market isn't doing well and the trading volume starts to go down, because they start to be able to rely more on their subscription income, they're actually going to be doing better off in the long term and be less exposed to the market volatility. So a bit how Apple has made the genius move of starting to move away from focusing only on making money from their hardware sales and pushing into really starting to monetize the software sales. Well, that's pretty much what Coinbase is doing too. If you start to actually increase the amount of money you're making per user, well, that's just very good for your bottom line, regardless of what the environment is doing, because people are much more hesitant to cancel a subscription than they are to, for example, not make a trade that day, right? So over the years, first of all, they're going to keep making crazy money from just their trading activities, but proportionally, more and more of that is going to actually come from the users that are registered on the platform and that are staying on there and relying on any kind of subscriptions, staking, saving, whatever. All of that is associated with fees, and that's kind of what the next future of Coinbase is going to look like. Now, there's one more key point that I want to share with you guys, which is absolutely going to blow your mind, especially if you're bullish on the crypto market in general. Well, guys, guess how much of the entire crypto market is held by Coinbase? Guess, go ahead, write it down in the comments down below. I bet you're wrong. They hold 11.3% of the entire market. Their assets on the platform increased from 90 billion at the end of 2020 to an eye-watering 223 billion in the Q1 of 2021. And guys, guess how much of that came from institutions? Well, I have that number for you. Directly from the Coinbase press release, we have here that of this 223 billion that they have on their platform, 122 billion of that is coming from institutions. And guys, that's the last point I want to make, because you always hear, hey, this time it's different. But this time it's really different. This time the whole pump that we have seen so far is mostly because of institutional support, which also brings a lot of stability into the market, because every time that we start to see a dip, well, these huge whales are going to start buying up those dips, and you're just not going to have a situation anymore where the whole market crashes 50%. They're just not interested in that. For them, they see the price go down, they say, hey, that's a great buying opportunity for us, and well, the price just kind of stabilizes. That's why now we've had such a long period of consolidation, because even when the price wants to just start dropping, well, there's just so many buyers that the price doesn't drop. It just kind of goes flat for a while and then starts to go back up when demand picks up again. And that's kind of the era that we're in right now. And I think that just seeing the amount of institutional money that's poured into Coinbase is a really prime example of that, to give you some cold hard figures of just how much they are on the scene this time around. Now, the last thing that I'm going to tell you guys is, of course, to please smash that like button and subscribe if you want to see more content from me every single day. I'm 2 subscribers away from 100, so if you could please just get me there, I'd be so happy. Guys, the ticker for Coinbase is going to be Coin. So you can go ahead and look on whatever brokerage platform you're using today and type in Coin and see if Coinbase is already listed there. There's not going to be any information down there. Tonight or tomorrow, we are going to get the initial share price that Coinbase is going to be listed at, but this is not so important, right? I thought about delaying this video until I had that information, but then I thought, you know what? Like, what's more important is just the total valuation of Coinbase rather than the exact share price, because you can just have a look in the financials tabs and see, okay, this is how many shares they have, this is their market cap, divide, does the price make sense? Like, what you care about is the overall price of the company. But what that also means is that when the brokerages are populated with the share price information, they're also going to get a bunch of other information on their share page. So if you want to see more details about Coinbase there before you're ready to actually make the buy, well, then you can go ahead and have a look at that on Tuesday night or Wednesday afternoon. So thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, April 14th, around market open. Actually, they might only go live around 12, but start looking from the moment the market opens if you want to get in on this IPO. As always, not financial advice. Please do your own research, but I do hope we got smarter together today. Guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Please make sure to subscribe and get me to 100. Thanks. Bye.